Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we like to blend casual conversations with some, insightful discussions on the latest tech and gadgets. So you guys asked for a deep dive on this Sansui S55 VU, and let me tell you, this TV is full of surprises. We're talking like OLED quality at a price that honestly seems almost impossible, and especially when you consider the brand's history. Sansui, for those who don't know, is making a comeback. They were known for their vintage audio equipment, and now they're diving headfirst into the TV market.
And what's fascinating is how they've managed to maintain a level of, craftsmanship that we haven't really seen in budget TVs for years. It seems like brands are kind of starting to prioritize durability again.
I'm actually skeptical about OLED at this price. Convince me, what makes this S55 VU's build so different from just a regular LED TV?
Well, right out of the box, the build quality really stands out. It features a heavy metal base and a solid chassis, not the, flimsy plastic you usually find at this price.
So you're saying it actually feels premium. Okay, I'm intrigued. What else caught your attention?
Well, there's one very strange feature on this TV that we'll get to later. Let's just say it involves singing. But first, let's talk picture quality. You probably already know the basics of OLED, but what surprised me about this model was the contrast ratio. We're talking perfect black levels and just incredible depth thanks to that pixel level dimming. Think of it like the difference between staring into a pitch black room versus a starry night sky. That's OLED.
Okay, that's a pretty vivid analogy. But we all know there's no such a thing as a perfect budget device. Where did Sansui cut corners to hit that affordable price point?
One of the trade-offs is in the HDMI ports. It's got HDMI 2.0, which is fine for most things, but if you're chasing those buttery smooth 120 Hz visuals on the new consoles, this might hold you back. It can't support 4K gaming at 120 Hz.
So for gamers who want to fully utilize their PS5 or Xbox Series X, this might not be ideal. So great visuals, but can this budget TV deliver on sound as well?
That's where we hit another compromise. The lack of EARC support means you won't get the full benefit of uncompressed Dolby Atmos audio, which can affect that immersive audio experience for, movie buffs and audiophiles.
That's a trade-off I'm not sure I'd be happy with. How does that compare to other TVs in this price range?
It's definitely something to consider. Most budget TVs will skimp on audio, but some do offer ERC if that's a priority for you.
All right, so we've got some trade-offs in terms of connectivity and audio. What about the TV's overall performance? How does it handle everyday use?
The S55 VU runs on Google TV, which is generally a user-friendly platform. However, there are some quirks to be aware of.
This is where it gets interesting. Tell me more about these quirks.
Well, the boot time can be a bit sluggish, taking around 35 to 45 seconds to fully start up. I also notice occasional lag when navigating the menus or launching apps. This might not be a deal breaker for everyone, but it's worth noting.
So not exactly a speed demon. Anything else users should know about the software experience?
The settings menu is quite basic, offering limited control over picture settings like color grayscale and white balance. If you're someone who likes to fine-tune their TV's picture to their, exact preferences, you might find the lack of advanced settings a bit frustrating.
All right, let's talk about a key aspect of any TV.
Yeah.
Color accuracy. How did the S55 VU perform in this area?
Think of it this way. It's like an Instagram filter that's permanently stuck on warm. It's not terrible, but skin tones can look a bit sunburnt because the red channel tends to be oversaturated. Good news is the 2025 models are rumored to have much better color control.
That's good to know. But for those who can't wait, how does the overall picture quality stack up?
Despite the color accuracy issue, the overall picture quality is still pretty impressive for the price. The OLED technology shines through delivering those deep blacks, vibrant colors, and that amazing contrast ratio we talked about. It's a noticeable step up from budget LED TVs.
Okay, so we have a mixed bag so far. Great build and picture quality for the price, but some compromises in features and performance. Now let's dive into a specific use case. Gaming. How does the S55 VU fare for gamers?
Well, for casual gamers, the S55 VU is a solid option. The input lag is around 21 milliseconds, which is responsive enough for, most games.
So not a pro gamer's dream, but good enough for casual play.
Yeah.
What about features like variable refresh rate? Does it support that?
It does, but here's the catch. It's capped at 60 Hz. So even though the TV has a native 120 Hz refresh rate, you won't get the full benefit of 4K gaming at 120 Hz. Again, it comes back to those HDMI 2.0 ports.
Got it. So some limitations there for the hardcore gamers. Now, you mentioned some picture quality tests. What were the results?
We put the S55 VU through its paces, and the results were kind of a mixed bag, as we've seen with other aspects of this TV. In SDR mode, for example, the peak brightness topped out at around 430 nits.
Is that good or bad? Put it in perspective for me.
Well, it's decent for dimly lit rooms, perfect for like a cozy movie night. However, it lacks the punch you'd expect from, high-end HDR content.
So good for mood lighting, not so much for brightly lit living rooms.
Yeah.
What about HDR performance? That seems to be a huge selling point for a lot of TVs these days.
Yeah, in HDR mode, we saw peak brightness levels around 635 nits in certain test scenarios. But when we increased the window size, the brightness dropped significantly down to around 127 nits.
Wait, so the brightness level changes depending on what's on the screen. That doesn't sound ideal.
It's not uncommon for OLED TVs to have varying HDR brightness levels, but the drop-off here was more noticeable than we'd like to see. It affects the overall HDR experience.
Okay, so HDR performance might not be its strongest suit. You also mentioned some issues with the red channel earlier. How did that translate in the test results?
Well, the tests confirmed our initial observations. While the grayscale accuracy was decent, certain colors like red, green, and yellow showed noticeable deviations.
So while the overall picture quality is impressive for budget OLED, there are some compromises in color accuracy and HDR performance. Let's talk about that strange feature you teased earlier, the singing one.
Ah, yes. The karaoke microphone remote. It's definitely a unique feature, and it actually works surprisingly well.
Wait, so this karaoke remote, is it a gimmick or actually decent? Did you test it?
We did, and it's more than just a novelty. The sound quality is decent, and it's fun to use.
Okay, that's hilarious. I never would have expected a karaoke microphone to be a selling point for a TV, but here we are. But let's bring it all back to our listener. What does this all mean for someone considering the S55VU? Is it worth it?
That's the million-dollar question. It really boils down to your priorities and expectations. If you're looking for the absolute best picture quality and cutting-edge features, then this TV probably isn't for you.
But for someone on a budget who wants a taste of that OLED experience, it might be a good option, right?
Exactly. If you're on a tighter budget and want to experience the beauty of OLED without breaking the bank, the S55VU is a compelling option. You get impressive picture quality, especially in darker viewing environments, and a few fun surprises along the way.
So it's all about weighing the trade-offs. You get that stunning OLED contrast, but you might have to sacrifice some bells and whistles like top-tier HDR performance and the latest gaming features.
And for many viewers, that might be a perfectly acceptable compromise, especially considering the price.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating dilemma. On one hand, you have the allure of OLED technology at an incredibly accessible price point. On the other hand, there's the temptation to wait for those 2025 models with potentially improved features and performance.
And don't forget that karaoke microphone. That's a tough one to pass up.
Okay, you got me there. The karaoke microphone is definitely tempting. But seriously, for our listeners, knowing what you prioritize in a TV, would you go for this budget OLED option or hold out for something else?
If it were me, I'd think about my viewing habits. Do I watch a lot of movies in a dimly lit room? Do I need the absolute latest gaming features? Or am I just looking for a great overall TV at a great price?
Those are great questions. The S55VU seems like a solid choice for someone who values picture quality over everything else, but maybe isn't as concerned with having all the bells and whistles.
Precisely. And let's not forget, Sansui is a brand with a history of quality. So even though this is a budget model, there's a good chance it'll last.
That's a great point. You're not just buying a TV, you're buying into a brand. And with Sansui's legacy, that adds a layer of trust. So for our listeners, the decision is yours. Weigh the pros and cons, think about your needs, and choose the TV that's right for you.
Well said. And remember, there's always something new on the horizon.
That's the beauty of technology. It's always evolving, always pushing the boundaries. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the Sansui S55VU. It's been a pleasure exploring the ins and outs of this intriguing budget OLED TV.
Always a delight to share these insights with our listeners. Hopefully we've given you enough information to make an informed decision.
Thanks for tuning in to Byte-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed this episode, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.